Hey everybody, it's January 21st here at the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta. I'm Grandmaster Ben Finegold, and we take turns on Tuesdays. So we have great players of the past, and we have an endgame class. Which one is this one?
Endgame.
Endgame. Now, when I teach endgames, I got two choices. I can teach theoretical endgames that didn't really happen, and then I just show you how to do it. So if it does happen, then you know how to do it, except you forgot. Or I could show you practical endgames that actually happened. They were real games. Now, I could go back 50, 100 years and show you famous games. Today, I decided to show you games that were played in the last 2 days.
Huh?
One of them was played today. In fact, two of them were played today, and one was played yesterday, but it was in like Russia, so it might have been 2 days ago, because it's, I don't know. Okay, now, the first we're going to start off with is Anton Smirnov, who's a 2600 Russian player, versus a famous Uzbekistan player. And he's known because he was beating Magnus Carlsen in the World Blitz last month, but I think the game ended in a draw. And he's 15 years old, unless he's younger than that. I think he's 15, he might be 14. And the reason I know who he is when I taught at the World Youth, right? Not taught. When I coached the World Youth, he was always the guy who was winning. I was like, oh man, that guy won again. He's not American, but he kept winning. He was 9, he was 10, he was 11, he was 12, and he always won his section. And now he's already over 2,600 FIDE. He's like 15. Okay, and his name, which I'm going to mispronounce now, that's why I haven't pronounced it yet, is Nodirbek Abdusattorov, right? Okay, and I told Michael Adams in 1988 in Ostend, Belgium, I said, if you can't pronounce your opponent's name, watch out. Okay, that's why Michael Adams never became world champion. All right, now, this game, White played the obvious queen takes e4. Okay, now in this position, we're going to take a vote.
Okay.
You can vote, there's 4 of you, so that's not good. I'll break the tie if it's a tie. You can vote white's better or black's better. Who votes white's better? And who votes black's better? So the vote's 2-0 with 2 abstentions. What do you vote?
White.
Well, okay, so you did, and you don't want to vote yet.
Yeah, I abstain.
Okay, so yeah, white's completely winning. White is up in exchange, a rook for a bishop, and white's king is safer, which doesn't make a lot of sense because white's king has no pawns in front of it. But the reason white's king is safer is white's king is on a black square. Don't kick, and you can't do anything. Now black's king, trouble. And one thing I've pointed out a lot in many of my lectures, my classes, my private lessons, when I'm streaming online, is if you've watched my stream, I say things like always sacrifice the exchange. Well, in the opening and middle game, often a bishop or a knight is better than a rook. However, in the end game, that's not the case. Now you might wonder, why would a bishop be better than a rook, or why is a rook better than a bishop? In the opening, do your rooks do a lot of stuff? No. And in the end game, the rook and the bishop are wide open, as we see here. However, the rook is not, what's the word I want to use? Limited. Okay? And if you've been to a mall, you know limited's not good. Right? Ask Karen. Okay. Now, so in this position, the rook and the bishop have equal access to whatever they want to do. Problem is, the bishop has to stay on its color. So this bishop's on a white square, so that's it. It's controlling white squares. This rook controls all the squares. That's better. And so white should win, and their ratings are about the same. Now, I've said this in many lectures. I've never heard any other grandmaster say this. So I guess they don't know how to teach. Okay, the reason people play badly in the end game isn't because they're bad players, although that helps. But the reason is, number one, you're tired because you've been playing dozens and dozens of moves and you're almost at the end. The other reason is you're playing with a clock, which you usually are. You don't have any time on your clock. When the game starts, you have all of your time. When the game is ending, if you're a grandmaster, you don't have any time left. Now for kids, they're like, what do you mean? I still have the same amount of time. They don't care. Play instantly every move. Okay, so in this position, white has a big advantage. Now, black played bishop d7 because the bishop on a4 was sort of over there. It's got to be more in the center. And white made many good moves in a row. Queen h4, putting pressure on both pawns. Queen f7, defending both pawns. c5, that's a passed pawn. Might as well make a queen. Now, the only check that black has is queen a2 check, right? Yeah? But then I just played rook g2, and you got nothing. So, he played bishop c6, the dual-purposed move. Dual-purposed move? Just dual purpose. I can't move my pawn anymore, and now when you check, rook g2 is not very good. Although I don't want to play king g3 either, or king h3. So bishop c6 is a good move. It stops the c pawn and threatens queen a2. Queen f4, that's a good move. White wants to play queen h6. Then white's very happy. Then white shows you why the rook's better than the bishop. Okay. King h7, stopping queen h6 check. And then king h3, double question mark. That's a blunder. Now, when I prepared for this lecture, I had the engine on, which I don't have on now, because that would be cheating. And when I turned the engine on, the engine, which is very unusual for an engine, it said, yay! Usually engines just give numbers and stuff. And it said, queen d6. And it said, I'm threatening the bishop, and when the bishop moves away, I push my pawn. And it gave some crazy number like +7. That's a crazy number. Now, they don't have a lot of time on their clock, and white's afraid of all these checks. Computers aren't afraid of checks. They go, check, 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 that's nothing. A human's like, am I going to get mated if he checks me? So, when you can allow a series of checks, for a human that's scary, the computer just looks all the way to the end and says, yeah, that's winning. So queen d6 is what an engine would play, and the game would be over. But white played king h3. He actually wants to put his king on h4, so there's no checks ever. No checking. It's not fair. After queen e6 check, he did play king h4. And now bishop there, threatening checkmate. So what white did was really bad, and I think white missed bishop d7. I think he didn't see it. And he's like, oh, checkmate, that's not good. I should stop that. So there's 4 of you. How do you stop queen h3 mate? You don't want to get mated, do you?
Well, rook h1.
Rook h1. Were you going to say that or something else?
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Rook g3.
Rook g3. Yeah. He did play rook h1. That's right. Stop mate. Must be a grandmaster. Okay. Then king g6. And white wanted to win that pawn, but he can't win that pawn. Okay. Queen d4. They moved around a bit. Didn't do very much. Okay. Now he's threatening the f6 pawn. And he threatens mate again. This time rook f3 stops the mate. So the reason white's winning is the rook's better than the bishop, but I mean black's threatening checkmate. That bishop's pretty good. Queen and bishop, lining up as a battery. Okay, queen e1 check. Now the game should end in a draw. Okay, now I don't know if they interviewed the players afterwards. I'm going to say no, because this was the last game to finish, and they want to go to dinner. Yeah, the people who are reporting the tournament, they're sitting there for 6 hours analyzing the games. So when the last game is done, it's time to eat. So I don't think they interviewed the players. If they did, I didn't see it. However, if they did interview the players, if I was the interviewer, I would ask the person with the black pieces, why didn't you play this move that's a dead draw? And he might say, oh. Or he might say, no, I want to win. I don't want to draw. I don't know what he would say because I didn't ask him. Now, if black wants to draw, that does it. That's a draw. If you play king here, you checkmated, right? And if you play rook here, we just go back and forth. That's the engine line. And if you want to get checkmated, you can. If you're like, wait, I want to get checkmated, please. Okay, you can get checkmated if you want. Anyway, the engine says draw. And black didn't do that. And I don't know why black didn't do that. Maybe he didn't understand it, or maybe he wanted to win. Okay? So he played queen c3, threatening checkmate. So maybe he wanted to win. All right. And now white's probably winning again. Always repeat. Okay, white plays for the win. h4 check is also a bad move. A lot of bad moves this game. Okay, now this is something that makes me angry. And you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. You know why? Because you don't like me anyway. So I'm angry, that's even worse, right? When you have a worse position and you're down material, do you want to trade all the pieces off?
No.
No. You want to, especially when the white king has nothing in front of it. There's no pawns. Black needs to keep the queens on. If you trade queens, it's over. If you play queen takes queen, rook takes queen, here comes rook b6, and the c pawn's going to promote. And this pawn's hanging and so forth. Okay? Well, if you don't trade queens, you got to save your queen. And if you save your queen, you got to save the f6 pawn. Otherwise, queen takes f6 is annoying, right? So you play queen d8. Excellent. Okay? And they don't have a lot of time on their clock, so their moves weren't perfect. White won a pawn. Good. But no time on his clock. Just moving around. Can't figure out how to win. Now, look at that white king. If it was black's move, queen check forks the king and rook. Right? See what I'm saying? Okay. So queen h3. Hard to win. Okay, now black wants to go here or here. Man, tough position. Just keeps checking him. Okay. And now the game should end in a draw by repetition. And he played king e2, losing the game. And this is one thing I learned a long time ago. I learned it the hard way. When your opponent has one bishop, I've said this in every lecture, don't put your pieces on that color. So far, white did a good job. Everything is on black. What would Pearl Jam say? Is it Pearl Jam?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I almost messed that joke up. Right. Now, the kids haven't heard of Pearl Jam, as we discussed earlier. Haven't heard of anybody. So I could have said anything. Okay. Now, if only Scott watched this lecture, then only Karen gets that joke. Okay, and Spencer would get it. All right, so the game should end in a draw. And what happens is when you're winning and you mess up, then you don't want to draw. You want to win. Roar! I don't want to draw. Wah! So he played a move that loses. Now, how can we check with the bishop?
Bishop e5.
Yeah, now black's winning. White doesn't have a good move here. For example, king e1, checkmate. Is that good? Yes, not good for white. And king e3 is also bad. I think king e3 is the best, but you lose all your pawns with check. Okay, and king d1, checkmate. So, now you guys are under 18, right? I don't want you to see this next move. Close your eyes. Rook D3, confusing the audience. Man, King E2 is no good. Okay, now, here's a problem a lot of people have. Even super grandmasters like Anand and Anish Giri have this problem. Okay? And other grandmasters have this problem. The whole game, they're like, oh, I'm going to lose. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll draw. It looks like black got lucky. Now black's not going to lose anymore. Well, now black's actually winning. And what he did was fantastic. Well, you'll start crying. That's how good it was. Okay? And here, black calculated a forced win with 2 brilliant moves in a row. If he doesn't play the forced win, he's still better, but probably not winning. But the way he played, the engine says black is plus 53. Plus 53 is good.
Very good.
Yeah. So what did black do? It's the most forcing move in the history of chess. You can't play a more forcing move. Anyone? You at home?
Four check?
What?
Queen E4 check?
That's not as forcing. After Queen E4 check, I have a lot of moves. They're not good, but I have a lot of them. Probably King D2 is the right one. But you couldn't be closer.
Queen H5?
Queen H5? That's similar to Queen E4. It's not as good. All right, now if you were the Eagles, you would put yourself on a highway and you would show yourself a sign. And then you would... You don't know the Eagles song?
I don't.
You see what I have to put up with here? Take it to the limit one more time. You don't know that song? Take it to the limit?
I've heard
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So you have to take it.
Oh.
So he takes it. That's pretty forcing.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah. Okay. Then so Karen missed it. Queen takes rook check. Obviously, white plays. Right. Now, only Karen can answer this question. By doing no calculation, don't calculate,
All right.
what should black do here? What would I teach you to do in the endgame? It's an endgame.
Well, I mean, I can move the king out, but...
What's this but? Play faster. I would, but.
Okay.
Don't resign. I didn't want to resign, but. Don't offer a drop, but.
King E6.
King E6, the only winning move.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
That's the only... You wouldn't look at. I tell you, move your king
I
up.
said I wouldn't have gotten that without
What?
a prompt.
Yeah. See how black moves his king up? Bam! That's the only move that wins. See, if you take this queen, white takes back, and white moved his king up. No! We want black to move his king up. Bam! Now, if it was black's move, then black could take the queen, and then play king d5, and so on. Mainly,
And so on.
and so on. Yeah. King e6, and the engine's like, ooh, I like that. Good job. Yeah. Now white's lost. Loses by 1 tempo. That's the most fun you can have. So, I tell my students never resign. And they resign every game. I tell them move their king up in the ending, and they're like, no. And then I stop teaching. And then you watch grandmasters, that's what they do. Even when they're 15 years old. Okay? So, he played c6. And now he wins by 1 tempo. Lucky. Okay, black has 2 winning moves here. One wins 1 move quicker than the other. Now there's 6 legal moves. 2 of them win. Can somebody name one of them?
King B3.
King B3 is the best. Then he resigned. Black has an idea. Pretty good idea, right? The other move that wins is King B4, but that's slower because after here, you have to play King B3. After here, you have to play King B2. Now you can queen. That takes longer. King B3 resigns. So that game took over 90 moves in over 6 hours, and white was winning for like 3 hours. Then he lost. That's the most fun you can have. Soviet school of chess, not what it used to be. Yeah, chess is hard. Okay. Now, today, let's see. There we go. Okay, this game was played today in a chess tournament that started today. It's in Gibraltar, your favorite country. Not really a country. Now, other than the chess tour they have once a year, which is very strong, 50 grandmasters at least. At least. What is Gibraltar known for?
Rock.
Yeah, rock. What else? If you're walking around Gibraltar, what animal might you see? Yeah, and then some. They got monkeys running around. They might just go into your hotel room while you're asleep. Happens all the time. Yeah. Okay, now in Gibraltar, lot of grandmasters. This guy's rated 2,700, so he was on board 5, I think. Mamedjarov is the highest rated, then MVL, and then etc. Okay. Now, this position, white's up a pawn, but normally in an endgame, when you're up a pawn, the winning technique is to queen your pawn. Then you're up a pawn, you make a queen. How could white ever make a queen ever? Good question. Yeah. So white has another way to win. It's the easiest way to win in chess. Checkmate. So white's like, well, my king's safer than my opponent's because I have 3 pawns near my king and he has 2, and his pawns are doubled. So black played rook d4, and white played queen b8. He said, I think I'm going to go rook here and rook here mate. And black didn't want to get checkmated, so he traded queens. Check. Take. Now, there's a grandmaster you never heard of unless you're you, or you. But if you're you, then you never heard of him. And his name is Capablanca. How did I do on that? Did you hear Capablanca?
Yeah.
Why you? See, I did good. I was just right on that. Okay, Capablanca was your favorite world champion. Right after Steinitz, then Lasker. Then it was Capablanca. Okay, Capablanca was world champion 1921 to 1927. He was known for being a great endgame player. He liked the endgame. I like the endgame. And one of Capablanca's maxims, not to be confused with Delugi, you got that joke?
Mm-hmm.
But nobody else did?
Maxim's working.
There's a grandmaster named Maxim Delugi. You're like, what? Okay. He's American too. All right. He said, Capablanca said, advance your majority. So this is sort of like if you want to attack somebody, you want to have more pieces than them. If you go to war, your country against the other country, hopefully you have more people than they do. Otherwise you have to learn what drones are. Right? So if you're on the battlefield, probably the team that has more people is the favorite. Which side of the board does white have more pawns? King side or queen side?
King 5.
King side, 3-2. 3's more than 2. So he played h4, put it in h. Okay, and Lawrence Trent said, I'd like to take that pawn. That would be awesome. And Quang Liem said, nah, I think I'll defend my pawn and move my king up the board, just like Grandmaster Finegold taught me. Now, here, Lawrence made the losing move, although he might be losing, maybe. Even computers don't know, because they can't look all the way to the end of the game here. So they give some number like 1.2. That doesn't help me. Okay, and I understand this move, but it loses for a tactical reason, which nobody's ever seen ever. That's why I'm showing you this. This was played today, like 5 hours ago. You guys are lucky. Imagine if somebody else was teaching you. Terrible. Okay, now, there's 4 of you. Time for quiz number 2. Who wants to trade pawns, white or black?
Black.
Man, he was pretty confident before he wouldn't even answer.
Why?
What do you think?
Black.
Black.
Black won 3-1. Black wants to trade pawns. If there's no pawns on the board, white's not going to win. So when you play a knight endgame, or a bishop ending, or a rook ending, I've said this in other endgame lectures, if you're losing, or you're worse, or you're down pawns, you want to trade pawns. Because if there's no pawns, guy's not going to beat you. So black played a very interesting move here that wouldn't occur to most of you. But Lawrence Trent's a good player, so it occurred to him. But he missed the tactics, because nobody would see this. It was great. What move can black play that trades pawns? Anybody?
Rook h4.
That gives your rook away for a pawn. That's different. You want to trade a pawn for a pawn, not give your rook away.
a5.
A5, very good. Okay, and Lawrence Trent was thinking, if you take me, I'm going to go here. And we're going to trade all the pawns off, which he will, and 3 against 2 is a draw. I'm going to take this pawn. Well, I'm going to take this pawn back to a4, b4, draw. 3 against 2 is a draw. So he's like, yay, no pawns on the board, I draw. So white played a move which stopped black from taking this pawn by making a threat. Played rook e4. In your opinion, the opinion of the class, if black trades rooks, is white going to win that endgame?
Yes.
White's incredibly winning. I got a pass pawn, and he doubled pawns. Boo. Okay. Probably Engine could announce mate here. Probably like mate in 21 or something. Be my guess. So Lawrence Trent saw rook e4, and he played rook d3. And he's like, what's the problem? Trade all the pawns off, draw. Now, luckily you're all sitting down. If you're at home, sit down. Now, if you're at home, you might have already seen this. They've probably already made videos about it. White made a move here, and black resigned, confusing the audience. If white doesn't make this move, the game should be a draw. He played the only winning move. This move's amazing. Looks like I'm going to get sued by Simon and Garfunkel because of the sounds of silence. Karen is correct. A4. Confusing the children and the adult.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's 2 moves that make sense for black. Take this pawn or take this pawn. Let's analyze them. Let's take this pawn first. I take this pawn. How do you stop that?
Rook a. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, rook a3, I'm going to make a queen, right? So don't play rook a3. How about a3? Right? Then I go here. White has a nice plan here. Like that plan? Yeah, so your rook has to block it, and you lose your a pawn, and your rook can't move. Horrible. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's do the other way. Let's take this. That's better. Now it's the same thing. That didn't help. It's the same, it's just on the B file instead of the A file. Here, then here, and then bam. Yeah. So after A4, Trent thought for a while and resigned. So after A4, I had my engine on for about a minute, and it said white's up 3.73. That's a winning advantage. Yeah, he didn't see A4. If he saw A4, he wouldn't have played A5 and rook D3. That's amazing. And then, white's rook is better than black's rook. Because after the trade of pawns, the black pawn is attacked. If it wasn't attacked, black would be fine. But after you trade pawns, this pawn is attacked. If you trade pawns the other way, this pawn is attacked. If only this was here, then we could just take that and black would be better. But, yeah. So a4 and black resigned, which was correct. And the truth hurts. Somehow, the higher rated player always wins. Indeed. All right, last but not least, as you all know, right, there's a world championship going on right now. The Women's World Championship. One of the players is behind you. Her. Right there. What's her name?
I don't know.
Wenjun. She's the world champion. She's playing Goryachkina.
Goryachkina.
Yeah, if you can't pronounce their name, they're good. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, so you guys are like, who's that? Anyway, Wenjun lost the first game. Then she won the second game. I mean, they drew a lot of games. I'm not counting the draws. So Goryachkina won the first game. Then Wenjun tied it up. Then Goryachkina won again. And then Wenjun won 2 games in a row. So there's 2 games left in the match. And she's ahead by 1. So she's looking like she might retain her title. Now, I'm sure the 4 of you sit around all day and memorize Grandmaster games.
That's
Yeah, exactly. And Anish Giri, I think, probably works with Liem. And there's a Dutch Grandmaster named Liem. You know what his wife's name is? Liem. She's an IM, and the husband's a GM. Okay? The GM is playing in Tata Steel, which was the game I just showed you. And in that tournament, after H5, they got this position. The very next day, this position occurred in the Women's World Championship. Okay? Now, black's probably worse here because that bishop doesn't look very good, does it? Okay? But if I said, what's white's winning plan? You'd be like, I don't know. That bishop's no good. All right. Now, the pawns are equal. Both sides have a 4-3 advantage. White's 4-3 advantage doesn't look very important. But white's bishop is pretty good and black's bishop is bad. So the engine likes white. Now, in Vaikanze and Tata Steel, that game ended in a draw. This game was played the next day. Now, Goryachkina just lost the previous game, so she's mad. So she wants to win this game, especially since the engine says she's better. So let's have a look. Rook E1, threatening discovered double, triple check. So she moved out of check. Rook E3, please undouble my pawns. She's like, all right. And their pawns are undoubled. Good, good. Okay? Now black says, I have more pawns over there. Let's push our pawns. And white says, that's fine with me. And they fight on the queen's side. Fight, fight, fight. Fighting on the queen's side. Now both sides have a passed pawn. Problem is, that bishop's still no good. So the engine still prefers white, but it says it's a draw with correct play. Material's equal. Okay, now this is something that's confused me for years. And the reason is, nobody knows the answer, especially me. Is that pawn going to promote, or is black going to take it for free? If it promotes, that's good for white. If black takes it for free, that's good for black. What's the answer? I don't know. That pawn's hard to take. How do you take that pawn? Can't play rook a6. So, I don't know. If you spend all your time taking that pawn, maybe I'll take your pawns. And also white's like, I don't really care. That's the worst bishop ever. I have a bishop and you don't. So it's got to be good for white. So she plays rook b5, attacking the c-pawn. Rook c8, defending the c-pawn. Bishop e2. Uh-oh, it's going to come here. Uh-oh. Scary. f6, breaking a very important rule, never play f6. Black played f6 because finally the bishop's going to do something. It's going to attack the rook or it's going to defend the d-pawn. Now this is an interesting move, rook a5. Most kids would take this immediately without thinking. Thinking's not their strong suit. Now I check, and that's a super skewer. right? I attack everything. That's good for white. So black played rook c6. Now black can play king takes pawn for free. Okay, and the engine says it's still a draw. Equal pawns. Trade the rooks. White says, I don't want to trade the rooks. Check. And they don't trade the rooks.
And so on.
Who has more passed pawns?
Black.
Black. Black has a passed pawn. White doesn't. Now, the pawn structure still favors white because these pawns are on white squares, so this bishop can take them. And these pawns are on dark squares, so that bishop can't take them. Also, white's king's on the third rank, black's king's on the second rank. So white's king is better, white's pawn structure is better, black has a passed pawn, the engine says it should be a draw. But the engine doesn't know how mad the player with white is. So the player with white just lost the day before. She wants to win. Now that reminds me of a poker story, and some of you at home play poker, especially you kids. Friend of mine who co-wrote a chess book with me, the Finegold Defense, Smith-Morra Gambit, right? Bob Schiaffoni, famous poker player. He was playing poker once, and his opponent said, that play you made, I don't think that's in your book. And he said, when I wrote the book, I wasn't stuck $12,000. Okay? So humans sometimes don't play the best move because they're mad. Like you're up a queen, you know you're going to win, then you hang your queen. And now it should be a draw, but you're mad. So you lose. Rawr, I want to win. So white doesn't want to draw. White had the advantage. White lost the last game. She wants to win. So sometimes you overpress. Okay, and obviously either side could win this game. Could happen. And they get to a rook ending where all the pawns are weak. All those pawns could be captured. But black's the one with the passed pawn. Still should be a draw. Probably you take black now because black has a passed pawn. Okay, and now the kings are equal. Still should be a draw. But white wants to win. And as a result, now white made the losing move. I think the engine wants to play king e2, which is a weird move. But the engine doesn't want to lose this pawn. But she played king c3. And now it's hard to defend that e-pawn. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Now whose king is better, white or black?
Black.
Black's king's a lot better because white's king is stuck on the A file forever. And that reminds you of which game that I played. There's somebody at home who knows. He's playing in Gibraltar right now too. I was playing Gregory Kaidanov in the U.S. Championship in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The truth hurts. They don't have the U.S. Championship there anymore. And he was up 2 pawns in a rook endgame, but his king was stuck on the H file, could never leave the H file. So I drew. That king stuck on the A file, and black has a passed pawn on the 5th rank. So black's going to win. Okay, now obviously you want to queen your pawn, but your rook would be captured. So she moves her rook, and now it's time to queen our pawn. Can the white king stop it? No. Okay, the rook can stop it. But I don't think white wants to give up her rook for that pawn. Then she's down a rook. Man, the truth hurts. And then the king promoted.
No.
Yeah. Now white resigned because black has a very simple plan. Always play king b1 and then promote to a queen. Right? That's a good plan, isn't it? Is this king helping?
No.
Put the king here, then I'll take white. Then white's probably winning. But king here, no king. You know what Bob Marley said? No king, cry.
I'm about to wilt.
What? Anybody? Karen? Karen's like, that's obvious. The kids are like, what? I don't understand any of that. And you never will. All right, so that game was played yesterday, maybe. I don't know what date it is in Soviet Russia. And now Wenjun is up a point for the first time in a match. Before she was either down one or even. But this game, because it's a long end game, you know, she's the older player. I think Goryachkina is like 19. Pretty good, too. Yeah, the ratings are about the same. Look at those ratings. Can't see them. 2578, 2584. So nobody's a big favorite. But one of them is up on our chess club and one isn't, so you can guess who's going to win. What did we learn from those end games? When you're worse or losing, you got to fight hard because your opponent's tired. And when your opponent has a big advantage and then gives it away and now it's equal, you should be like, okay, draw. Now you're in the driver's seat. They're mad that they give up their advantage. And there were two games there where one side was better or winning and they both lost. The other one looked like it was a dead draw, but the sneaky A4. Nobody saw A4. Guy with white saw A4. The Quang Liem. He's from your favorite chess country.
What's the country?
I don't think the adults know either.
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Karen knows. Damn, that's right. He's been the best player in Vietnam for a long time. The second best player in Vietnam, I'll never pronounce his name. One of his names is NGOC. And it's like there's like four names. He's like 26, 50. Yeah. Luckily, I didn't show his game because I'd be like, what? Yeah. All right. So those were the end games for today. Those end games were all played in the last 48 hours. And again, if you're like, man, that guy played the end game badly. Well, they were tired. The games go 6-7 hours. So they make mistakes at the end.
Well, I'm tired.
Then you're tired. This lecture's gone 45 minutes and you're exhausted.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I can't, are you kidding me? Yeah.
I can't.
All right, and next week, we'll have a lecture on great players of the past. It should be Mikhail Tal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if you don't like the stories I tell about them, that's because they're tall tales. This is Grandmaster Ben Finegold at the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta. Thanks for watching our YouTube page. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye.